Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello. This is Kathy, and I'm just popping in here before this episode to thank you so much for listening. Now, the next few episodes on the podcast are going to be re-releases of our most popular episode about the post-tenure experience. That's because we're getting ready to enroll our post-tenure, mid-career, even into late career program, which is called Elevate. Now, Elevate is a 6-month program that runs from February to July of 2023. Yes, we enroll early. We want to give you lots of time to find out all the information about the program and decide if it's right for you. Elevate is an application-only program. It's also a program that centers the one-on-one coaching experience. So there's lots of juicy one-on-one calls, there's group calls, and there's also workshops in our Elevate program. On October 5th, 2022, we will be doing an information session live for you where you can come find out all about the program and get any questions answered. So find that link in the show notes where you can register for our live Elevate info session, which is coming up October 5th. As long as you register, you can come live or we'll send you the recording as always. And during that info session, you will get all the information about the program and how to apply. All right, enjoy this re-release mid-career episode. Hey there, listeners. I have such an inspiring podcast guest for you today. So in just a minute, you'll be hearing my interview with Despina. She has been a member of our Elevate cohort, our last one that just graduated in July. And her story of how she found time to think and to even take her first vacation ever as an academic after taking our Elevate program or during our Elevate program will inspire you to get the kind of support and help and take that space on your calendar that you need. I really hope that you'll enjoy this completely inspiring interview with Despina.
I am Despina Stavrinos. I am a tenured associate professor of psychology at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. I'm actually a developmental scientist by training, and so I use longitudinal developmental methods to study driver behavior. So kind of a unique area for a psychologist.
Yeah.
And so I'm a founding director actually of a research lab called the Trip Lab, triplaboratory.com for anyone who's interested. And so we operate like a center. So research is really at the core of what we do, but we also have large education and community outreach arms to our work as well, given that we're studying driving. And that's something obviously that a lot of people can relate to in the community. Yeah. I also have an administrative role. So I serve as a program director for our PhD in developmental psychology at UAB. Wear a lot of hats like most people. I'm also a wife, a mom of 3 little kids. I have a 7-year-old son, twin 3-year-old daughters. I'm the primary caregiver of my grandmother, who's a Greek immigrant, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Many hats.
Yes.
Well, I'm really excited to have you on today to talk about Elevate. And we're going to get into that in just a second. But through coaching you, I've gotten to learn about your kind of really interesting area of research. So can you tell us like a little bit about like your lab? Like when people come to your lab, what do they do? What are you doing in there?
Yeah. So it's a podcast. You can't really see my lab. So I'll try to do the best I can in describing it. But what we have is really a state-of-the-art driving simulator facility in my lab. And so what that is actually a 2016 Honda Pilot. So the full SUV is sitting in my lab, just as you would see a car on a real road. Mm-hmm. However, the car doesn't move. It does actually move. It's on a motion base, but it doesn't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And there are large projection screens in front of the driver. And so we customize scenarios to test really challenging but realistic situations and see how drivers respond to those. So we can do this in a safe, ethical way in a simulator. And what we're doing is trying to understand what happens when teens are learning to drive. For example, being at UAB and just blocks away from the medical center, we also do a lot of work with clinical populations. So for example, after a traumatic brain injury, when can the patient actually return to drive safely? So those are some of the kinds of questions that we study, but we primarily use the driving simulator to study those.
Yeah, it's so cool. So I wanted everybody listening to kind of hear that. And it is also, again, like an unusual path for a psychologist, right? Yeah. Like, so just before we get into the Elevate stuff, tell us a little about how you took that path. Like what made you interested in kind of taking that area of research on?
Yeah, great question. And I can't say that when I was a little girl, I said, I want to grow up and be a transportation professional. That was not what I thought was going to happen. But I was always interested in decision-making and how kids make certain decisions and like the cognitions behind that. Yeah. Studying that in graduate school, there was a mentor who was doing things in virtual reality, and that sounded pretty cool to me. So just sort of tested the waters in his lab and really found that I loved what he was doing. And in that time, we were looking at pedestrian safety. So how little kids cross the street in a pedestrian simulator. So it was a fake wooden curb with a sensor plate, and they would step down and make the decision on when to cross. So that was what my dissertation work primarily centered around. And then I transitioned as a postdoc to look more at the driving side of things, but really been interested in like how technologies can improve or promote safety. And so that's kind of what we do in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. So I met Despina because she came into our Elevate program. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Elevate. And so Despina, would you tell us like, what made you apply for the program? Like what was going on that made you go like, okay, maybe I need to do this thing?
Yeah, great question. So Elevate, the word elevate really caught my eye because I was really at a point in my career where I felt like I was just repeatedly bumping against that glass ceiling that so many of us know about. Yep. And I felt like I was really pushing up against what I thought I had going for me, capabilities, desires, and needs, and what my university could really offer me at that time. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to learn some strategies to really elevate my career and elevate my life, and I just loved that verb, elevate. So I decided to do something selfish. And I know that that's kind of a term that had a negative connotation pre-elevate, but now I love that word. And I used it. I used my faculty development funds, been saving this little nest egg of funds, that carried forward for a few years, and did something for myself. I was really nervous about spending those funds to do it, to be honest with you. But looking back, I think it's one of the best professional financial decisions I've ever made. And it's had huge spillover effects. I'm a better mentor. I'm a better collaborator. I'm a better wife. I'm a better mom. So, crossing all boundaries of professional and personal life. I will say, though, Elevate ended up being a little different than what I thought it was going to be. So Elevate, I was like, I can do so much more. I just feel like I can do so much more. And so when I started the program, I thought, it's going to be, a year of productivity and so many wins, which kind of cheesy, but like in one of my first one-on-ones with Gina, actually, as my coach, I told her, so I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I love winning. I'm a very competitive person. And she was quick to tell me that she loved that about me because she said women in general are not competitive. So we started to think about how to leverage that quality to do big things. So I thought, okay, I'm going to win a lot of things through Elevate. I'm going to learn how to just do more and have this huge year of productivity. And now I'm on the other side, having graduated officially from Elevate, see it much differently. This literally just changed it was a huge shift in my mentality for sure.
So what do you think winning is now?
Yeah. Winning, I think, like I said, was selfish, doing things for me,
right?
Doing things that align with my mission. That's winning, I think. Yeah. My schedule used to be jam-packed. I would be running from one meeting to the next. I'd look at my calendar for the next day and it was already like making me feel overwhelmed at what I was going to accomplish the next day. Yeah. So winning to me now is having time to think, which I have on my calendar now, which has been amazing. That's just one example. I mean, there's so many different examples of why I think less is more.
Yeah.
And that's a really powerful thing. But if you can really embrace that idea of less is more, it is literally life-changing. Less is more, less of saying yes to everything, which was the pre-Despina, pre-Elevate Despina. And now yes to things that matter to me, and yes to the things that align with my mission, and no to the other things that really don't. And then it gives me more time for that thinking and more time for doing the things that I really value and want to do.
Yeah. I love that you talked about like a spillover effect. And because I think that idea, the idea of like women doing things because they want to, or because they want to pour into themselves. Like we think that that's selfish in that negative sense. And it is like, it's like this moment of actually self-centering, right? I'm going to center myself by investing this research money that I could have spent on, stuff for my lab or whatever, but I'm going to pour it into me. But the thing that we don't realize is that has this spillover effect. And so it's self-centering, but in a way it's also like, helping people around you. So if that's something that appeals to you, like I know a lot of people feel like, oh, well, spending this amount of money on myself, I could have hired a grad student.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
exactly. And that was one of the factors I most didn't join, because I was thinking the money, I needed to use this for grad student support. I mean, it's exactly what you said. But thinking on the opposite side of that, Kathy, like if a grad student came forward to me and said, I want to sign up for this professional development course, and here's all the great things I'm going to learn: calendar management and time management and how to be a better mentee, and all the things that, like on the other side, from a grad student perspective, what we learned in Elevate, I would have paid for them to do it.
Yeah.
Sure. Here's the 8K.
Yep.
Okay. You go do it. You're going to be a better person. You're going to be a better grad student for us. So do it. Why wouldn't we do that for ourselves?
Yes.
So if I really would have reframed it in that way early on, it would have been an easy decision, I think.
Yeah.
If I would have reframed it as, look, I'm doing something for me, but it's going to have obvious direct effects for my family, my friends, my colleagues, my students, then it's an easy decision.
Yeah.
We say, oh, I can't afford it. It's almost like you can't afford not to.
Yes. I mean, didn't you take a vacation for the first time in like?
Yes. Yes. That's like one of the major outcomes, what I consider the major accomplishment, a huge win. You ask me, what is a win now? Okay. First ever, this is cringy to think about, but first ever vacation that I had ever taken in my professional life where I truly 100% disconnected. I mean, Kathy, I even checked emails on my honeymoon. It's embarrassing. True. Okay. I was in Jamaica and I was checking emails just to make sure I wasn't missing anything major, the emergency, always thinking, what if those people have our phone numbers? Yeah. And so I worked really hard to plan for this vacation because it was my first one and I was a little, apprehensive about it, what was going to happen. But leading up to it, I, strategically planned for taking that time off, and it was amazing. And I deserved it. And so did my family and my precious little kids. They deserve to have 100% of me.
Yes. And you came back. I remember when you came back and you were like, I did it. I took this whole week off and it was amazing.
I was so proud of myself. And I told everyone around me, everyone was kind of like rolling their eyes, I'm sure, at hearing like, I'm taking a vacation. It's coming up next week. Like I was announcing it, just like, I think, coach myself a bit, but also just wanted everyone around me to know, like, if you need anything from me, you need to ask me now. And in fact, I had a few faculty colleagues, men, who approached me after and said, I heard you talking about your vacation and you inspired me to do one too, because I have never taken one. So I was like, well, good, do it. Everyone should,
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. So let's talk about the program. Like from what when you think back to the program, what is like kind of the month or the theme or the thing that you feel like was most impactful for you?
That's really hard because I feel like all of the months were very impactful for me, but I can just like pick one as an example. Time. My calendar was out of control. I did not have it managed properly. I was just putting in people's, anytime somebody would request a meeting, pop it on the calendar, wherever. No boundaries around my time. Mm-hmm. That has changed so much. Learning from the others in our cohort, just strategies they were implementing, like stacking, where you put all your teaching things together, all your research things together. So, and maybe if you have to go to different buildings on campus, putting all those together so it cuts down on the transition time, I found to be just great. Finding software solutions for that too, for like automating the setting of meetings and creating the Zoom link. Really, has just cut down on so much time. And now, like if you look at my calendar, pre-Elevate to post-Elevate, it's like night and day. You can't believe it's the same person. I have so many blocks of time now. I'm in a really good place because of that time month where I just had time to sit down and think through like, where can we improve? Where know better and do better, right? Yes, so I just know better now about how to schedule, and then email management kind of falling under that same time. Ooh, that was a terrible one. Another cringy moment I had literally because I took a screenshot to remember this about myself. 145,000 emails in my inbox, Kathy. Oh my okay. Yeah, I know. Oh my God. And I thought, I'll get to those, I'm working on things and I have things flagged, but I didn't realize how much that was weighing on me until they were gone. Yeah. So I worked, it was a solid, 3 or 4 days of really concentrated effort to get things under control on the email and start a file management system for them. And that, I went into that weekend, took another screenshot with 0 emails in my inbox. And I felt like a new person. Yeah. I felt like a new person, even though I knew deep down I wasn't going to get to all those 145,000 emails, but I didn't even know where to start. So having like a process, a system, and like just others around to like, be your cheerleaders and say, you can do this, but you need to do it, sit down and do it, prioritize it, lifted such a huge weight. So time, I think really helped me, but I would say all the months were really important. And we learned, even if they were small things, small changes, what do they say? Like the sum is greater than its parts. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the case here because, it was incremental, small changes that we made, but then collectively, when you step back and look at what a huge impact it made, it was just totally worth it.
Yay. Yeah. We tried real hard to design this thing that every month leads into the next thing. And you're kind of keep layering on, changes that it's true. Like, some of these things are small, or maybe they're either small and have a big impact, or they're simple. And so you just need to be introduced to them, right? like let's stack our schedules this way. Let's use a scheduler because it helps us. Actually, technology can help us set those boundaries and keep those boundaries. And then you have time to think. So what are you doing with that time to think that's on your calendar? Some people are listening and they're going, I want time to think, but I don't even know what I would do.
Yeah. That's true. In the beginning, I did feel like, what am I going to do with all this time? But now I crave that time, So I'm in my office and, some might say daydreaming, you might say strategic planning. So another month, Elevate was talking about our 5-year plan and sort of reverse engineering how we would get there. And so I'm setting milestones and tasks and things that I need to do now. So I'm strategically planning now for the 5-year goal. Yeah. Writing, a lot of writing time is in there. So writing is now at the center. Momentum has been amazing just to kind of feel like the presence of other awesome women who, are working towards the same goal. Yeah. So I set quotas for myself on weeks that I can look at the schedule and go, this is a reasonable expectation. I'm going to write 4 of the 5 days. Yeah. I always give myself an extra day that, who knows what's going to happen on some random day.
Mm-hmm.
On weeks where I have anticipated deadlines, challenges, I'm not going to be as strict about that and say 4 times this week. I might need to reduce to 1 time that week.
Sure.
And that it's in a guilt-free way. So I give myself some grace now, like, hey, this is an unreasonable expectation to say I'm going to write 4 times this week when I have all of these other things going on in this particular week. But I am able to write a lot more during those time blocks. And then reading some of the, different books on like deep thinking, deep work takes a lot of practice. I'm practicing some of those things during these long blocks of time as well.
Amazing. Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that kind of, once you carve the space, like once you figure out these kind of simple things, right, that then help you hold that space, like you said, right, you kind of crave it. You're like, I need to do that more because it had such a big impact. And then it also has that, it gives you that space for that meta look at your career, right?
Yes,
that
exactly.
If you can get your face out of like the day to day, like I can't even look up because I'm just getting through 145,000 emails in my inbox,
Yes.
But if you can look up and look forward, right? Like that is such a big shift in terms of just what you can accomplish.
For
right?
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So I have a list of questions and this one, fill in the blank. I almost didn't join because.
COVID and money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I talked about the money one, I was concerned about making that large investment for myself. Yeah. Now looking back, I was like, that was a small investment given the return. The return on investment was huge. COVID, we were in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And I was feeling so overwhelmed, overworked, needed something new to just kind of shake things up because I was being pulled in so many directions. So I was virtual coach, or that's what they called it, virtual teacher. In other words, for my son who was in first grade. So I was doing that for like the first half of the day and then staying up late and working. So I wondered, do I really even have time for Elevate?
Right.
But like we just talked about, wow, the result, I have so much more time now because of Elevate that yes, I had time for Elevate. I needed, I was a part of the Monday cohort. So I needed that Monday meeting with these amazing women and one-on-ones with the coaches and time with you, Kathy, just to talk about how things are going. Check-ins were just wonderful, and making it more focused time, a focused effort on, like you said, thinking about the big picture of things with my career, I think helped me pull out of the day-to-day dealing with, is there an outbreak of COVID in my area? How am I going to protect? I said I was a primary caregiver of my grandmother. She's 86. So trying to keep her alive.
Yeah.
Just so much going on that I feel like the program really saved me, pulled me out of what could have been a really dark time. So I almost didn't join because of COVID and money, but I'm glad that I went forward anyways.
Yeah, I am too, because I'm so glad that I got to meet you. Yeah, I think a lot of times that overwhelmed feeling, like we think that what we need to do is either work more or work harder or whatever. Like I don't have time to get supported. But once you get supported, it like, and now what like support looks like, that it's like really changes the way that you think about those moments when you feel overwhelmed or you feel like there's too much. It's like, oh, I don't need to work more. I need to get support. I need to tap my networks of people who can help me do what I need to do and support myself, because you're holding a lot of people. Yes. And that's something too, I want to say kind of about post-tenure in general and mid-career is that, and a lot of the folks in Elevate, right, are holding on to a lot of people. You're a leader in your lab, you're a leader in your grad program, you're mentoring grad students, you're holding your family up, you're holding yourself up. And it's a lot. Like you need to have networks of people that get that. That's very different, I think, than pre-tenure. Because pre-tenure, you're kind of just trying to make it for yourself.
Run. Yeah, exactly. No, that's beautifully said. And that's true. So you feel a lot of that pressure of other people's livelihoods and, their careers. And now you have full-time employees and everything else weighing on your shoulders. So you feel like I can't stop because I got to make sure everyone's taken care of. But then you fail to recognize, got to start with yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. Got to take care of yourself.
Yep. And when you pour into you, then you have that overflow effect to really milk the liquid metaphor, right? You pour into you and then it overflows for everybody.
Exactly.
All right. So a couple more questions before we wrap up.
Okay.
What was your favorite part of working in Elevate? Like, what was your favorite part of the program?
Oh, you, Kathy, was one of the major ones. You're inspiring, really. And what you've done for academic women, amazing. I tell everyone about, have you heard of Kathy Mazak? Everyone that meets me has heard Kathy Mazak spoken in a sentence. Amazing coaches. And, they're also unique and different in their styles of coaching, but they're relatable and they ask really thought-provoking questions that makes you dig a little deeper into yourself and figure out things. And that's been wonderful. The colleagues, the Elevate cohort participants, I mean, wow, you get to be with these amazing, accomplished women and spend some time together and learn from each other. That was an unintended consequence, I think, or benefit, I should say, from participation, is how much we just learned, and we did show and tells and willing to share and help each other out, which is amazing. And then just having that Elevate time blocked on my schedule. I say it was one of my favorite parts, seeing it there and secretly here. I still have that on my calendar because I use that time, Elevate, to go back to my notes and see what are some of the things we talked about, revisit those things, because sometimes we might, as a psychologist here, habits and stuff, you might fall back into old habits. Totally. So it's something you have to continue to work on. And so having that time to think and plan and dream is important, I think. But so my favorite part of Elevate was all of it. Every bit of it.
Okay. So my last question is, who would you recommend Elevate for and why?
Okay. I'd like to say everyone, but I think I would really recommend it to anyone who's out there dreaming about doing something big, dreaming to do some big things, but maybe you're like me, second guessing yourself, needing an extra push, or really desire the support of a community of people, a community of scholars who will help you get there, or at least develop a plan to get there. So I think that's really who this might benefit.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast and coming and talking about Elevate.
Thank you. This has been awesome. Thank you for everything you've done, Kathy.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.